Hey friends, adverbs are another part of speech. It's a little bit trickier and maybe harder to find in a sentence, so I'm going to teach you some tricks that can help you become an adverb master. Hey kids, this is the foldable that I'm going to be using in this activity. If you don't have it, you can click the link in the description box below and grab yourself a copy, or you can just stay tuned and see what you learn. If you do have it, you're going to go ahead and you're going to start cutting this out. You're going to cut out around this black line, so you're just going to cut the outside black line, so you end up with a rectangle here. You're going to cut this one out that says adverbs on the sides. You're going to end up with two big rectangles. Then you're going to cut this dotted dashed line out for the title, and then you're going to cut on all of these dashed lines and cut all of these pieces out. So you're going to end up with a bunch of little pieces over here, two big rectangles, and a title. Go ahead and pause the video, get that cut out, and then we'll start our lesson. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is fold on this black line under adverbs, fold it back and then forwards. Then you're going to line it up with your paper and you are going to put glue just on the back of that flap, so get a good amount of glue on there so that it sticks and doesn't have any problems. Then you're just going to smooth it out. Then on the examples flap, you're going to fold on that black line right underneath it, back so you can see the black line, and then forwards. Then you're going to tuck it underneath the other flap, close the adverbs flap to make sure that it's in the right position. And then you're going to put glue just on the back of that examples flap. Smooth it out. Then we're going to glue the title up at the top just to help you remember what this page is about and what an adverb is. Okay, now you're going to turn it sideways so that you can cut on these dotted lines to open these flaps up. So just cut the ones for adverbs and then open it up. And then you're going to do the same thing on the examples flaps. Just cut those all apart. The next thing we're going to do, I just like to open each flap and make a line so that when I've got it open, I can see exactly where my pieces go. And that's it. We're ready to get started.
Okay, now we're going to talk about adverbs. So we see the word verb right here, and so we're thinking we're adding on to the verb. We're giving more information about when the verb happened, how the verb happened, where the verb happened, or how often the verb happens. So we're adding on to the verb. So that's what we have to think of when we think of adverbs. So the first one is when. It tells when a verb happens. So let's look at some of the examples here. It could happen late, like if it was at night, it would be late in the day. It could have happened yesterday. It could happen in the morning. So when we're thinking about when something happens, we could say something like, yesterday we went on a field trip. So it's telling when this happened. Or late last night we ate ice cream. So you're just telling when, it's just kind of a general idea. Or in the morning for breakfast, I ate cereal. So that's how it tells when. All right, now we're going to talk about how the verb happens. It tells how a verb happens, like how you did something. A lot of times these adverbs end with ly at the end. So let's look at some examples. Maybe she buried her face in her hands sadly when her favorite football team lost the game. Maybe you yelled at your little brother angrily. Maybe your mother gave you a hug lovingly. So it's just telling the way that these actions were done. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is where a verb happens. It tells where it happens. So let's look at some examples. Okay, it happens outside. That could be anywhere that's not inside of a place. It happened far. Okay, here's a little map showing us a distance. It happened very high up. So an adverb that tells where is not going to be super specific. It's just giving you some kind of a position. Okay, the last one is that it can tell how often. Often just means on a regular basis, okay? So it tells how regularly something happens. So let's look at some examples. Well, it never happens. So we've got like this big X through it. It doesn't happen. So it doesn't happen often at all because it never happens. Or it happens nightly. So every single night this happens. Like every single night my brother and I read a book together. Or every single night we help put the dishes in the dishwasher. So nightly. Maybe it happens hourly. Maybe you have a clock that chimes hourly. Maybe you have to take the dog outside hourly. It just means it happens at some point every hour. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start sorting through these little words that you cut out. So I went ahead and took when, how, where, and how often, and I actually wrote them on the back down here so that I could easily see which flap I was going to be putting it under without having to constantly flip back and forth. So if you want to do that, you can. I'm going to have you go ahead and sort all of these little words into the spot you think it goes in, but don't glue them down yet. We'll check over after you've had a chance to try. So you're just going to look at a word and you're going to decide, is this telling me when it was done, how it was done, where it was done, or how often it's done? And then you're just going to lay it down where you think it goes, and then you're going to go on to the next one. And you're just going to lay them all down. There'll be 6 in each spot. And then unpause the video and I'll go over them all with you. Okay, go ahead and pause now. All right, we're back and we are ready to go over these. Now, I'm not going to necessarily pick these up in the order that you've laid them down, but when I pick one up and go over it, you can see if you've got it in the right spot. And if you don't, you can just pick it up and move it to where it goes. And that way, since you haven't glued it down, it won't cause you any problems. All right, the first one says before. Now, is before telling me when it happened, how it happened, where it happened, or how often it happened? I did it before. It's telling me when, like I did it before I ate breakfast, before I brushed my teeth. It's telling me when I did it. All right, here's another one. This one is there. Which one do you think? When, how, where, or how often? I walked over there. It's telling me where I walked, someplace else. Bravely. She bravely fought off the wild dog. Do you think that's telling when she did it, how she did it, where she did it, or how often she did it? It's telling how she did it. She did it in a brave way. Here's another one. Above. The cat is above us in the tree. Is that telling when, how, where, or how often? It is definitely telling where. It's telling a location. How about always? She always tattles on me. My sister always tattles on me. Okay, always is telling how often it's done, like it's happening all the time. Easily. I passed that test easily. How did I pass it? Easily. So it's telling me how. Inside. I went inside to get a drink. Where did I go? I went inside. So it's telling me where. Usually. I usually get up on time. That's telling me how often I do it. Like usually, that's a normal thing. Like maybe sometimes it doesn't happen, but usually it does. That's the normal thing. Okay, this one says last year. Last year we went skiing in Colorado. That's telling me when it happened. Last year is a time frame, so that's when it happened. Silently. She read her book silently. That's telling me, what do you think? How she did it. She did it without making any noise. Once. Once we went camping by the lake. What do you think? It's telling me how often. Like in my whole life, it only happened one time. That's not very often.
Secretly. He secretly ran through the hallway. So how did he run through the hallway? Secretly. So that's going to be how.
Okay, here's another one. Sometimes. Sometimes I like to have a cookie after dinner. Well, it's telling me how often. So not always, not usually, definitely not once. That would be sad, but sometimes. Okay, here's another one. Softly. I tiptoed softly down the stairs so I wouldn't wake anyone. It's telling how I tiptoed. Okay, here's another one. Tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a big test in math. That's telling when. Nearby. The fire truck parked nearby. That's telling where. Never. My brother never tells the truth. That's telling how often. And usually the words always and never aren't actually true. Like probably saying that he never tells the truth probably isn't true. He probably does sometimes. It just seems that way to us. Later. We're going to the movies later. That's going to be when. Normally. We normally go to bed at 9 o'clock. So that tells what we usually do on a regular basis. Maybe it doesn't happen all the time. Maybe on the weekends it's different, but normally it's 9 o'clock. Anywhere. You can just put those dishes anywhere. Well, it's telling me where. It's not very specific. It could be anywhere. So like any surface I could think to put them on, table or on the counter. Then he jumped up and ran to the door. Okay, that's telling me when he did it. Painfully. After having my tooth pulled, I ate painfully. So that's how I'm eating. It's hurting a lot.
Okay, here's another one. The dog ran behind the tree. Well, that's telling me where he ran.
Soon. When are we going to leave? We're going to leave soon. Okay, if you don't have all of these in the correct spot, you can go ahead and pause the video and check and make sure you've got them in the right place, and you are ready to glue them down now. All right, I've got mine all colored, and I colored all of my examples over here, and this is going to help me remember the different ways that an adverb can give you more information about how the verb was done, where it was done, when it was done, or how often it was done. So that is definitely going to help you out. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, click the bell notification.
And don't forget to check out the links below so that you can go through and look at some of my grammar activities and all my other grammar videos. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll catch you next time.